Now, what are the incentives with Hex? Hex prints you more Hex. That's correct. So actually, that's a perfect name, 369. So that's exactly the amount of inflation you have. So you have 3.69% inflation. Now, like I told you, like not like just like everyone doesn't vote, the people who do vote get substantially more power for their vote than they should, to your benefit and to their dismay over time. Now, to go back to what the like when I was explaining about the OA is basically one. It's basically the guy or the group of team of people who built Hex, who got a significant portion of the Hex total Hex supply. It's somewhere between 80 to 85% of the total supply of Hex is held by this central wallet that has a bunch of these smaller wallets that some stake, some don't stake, but for the most part are unstaked. And during this time, most of that Hex is not staked. So what happens is you have a very large amount of Hex not being staked. And then you have a smaller amount, something like 15% being held by actual users, that some of them are staking. So you end up having this sort of thing where the average yield in Hex is about 36 to 38% APY APR per year. But Miguel, how is that possible? Well, if 90% of the supply is not being staked, voila, that 10% is getting 90% of the yield, or the 100% of the yield, I should say, of that 3.69%. So this gives Hex two abilities right here. One, it gives Hex the ability to have a very low inflation rate, and your very low inflation rate, which is really good, because then that allows, when you get, as you get more and more users, it allows price appreciation of tokens and stuff, because you can very easily grow your network 4% a year to make up for the inflation. And two, we also have a very high yield, a very safe static yield that's very, very maintainable. Normally, these things are sort of just opposed. You remember how how I said earlier today, like the reason why would I stake? What are the incentives? Why would me as a human? Why would I want to stake Hex at all? Well, there it is. So basically, you're in a system where the inflation is very low, and then the other half, the the amount of yield that I'm receiving and stuff is very decently high. So you're in this cool. You're kind of having your cake and eating it too, but it comes with having to trust a large holder of something, which it's in its best interest to protect the ecosystem. Pretty cool. So that's basically the two big reasons there. The other thing too is it also keeps Hex very competitive. So you want the average. I mean, right now in the bear market, because yields are down right now, you could more or less on a safe asset earn about 18 to 20% yield. So on something that's a lot safer than most projects and assets and stuff, because of this large amount of people who believe in the project, who are very staked out, you end up having a blue chip product, or a light blue chip, if you want to call it that, that you can earn a very, very real decent return on. That's what's so cool about it. Where in other places you have to go much higher in the risk curve in order to get that sort of yield or higher yield. But then from there, you're in you typically systems where they're very diluted. So a lot of times you enter projects and you're like, wow, I'm earning 100% APR, pretty nice. But if you look through the back end, you're like, oh my god, this thing's inflating 300% a year. So you may be in a token with 100 million token supply, and by the end, January 1st, and by December 31st, it has 330 million tokens. So that means they're using, so a lot of projects, you have to have incentives, right, to get people to put liquidity there outside of the main token system spending some of its treasury to do so. But usually you have to spend something on incentives. So what Hex has done is essentially it has taken one of the biggest weaknesses, which is inflation, and turned it upside on its head, and now allowed it as a competitive advantage over a lot of other projects. That's what's so cool. I'm pouring myself a little drink. I'm gonna be talking a lot on the stream, you guys. This is gonna be one you're gonna have to watch a lot of times, but it truly, like, once you really listen to it a few times, you're gonna truly understand. Now I'll answer this one super chat, but save super chats for the end of the stream. Eric with the $20 super chat. Your stream with Wells only caused my first 555 stake of 3,000 hex a year ago. Since then, I have filled the ladder from 1 to 3 T shares, coming out 2 times per year for the next 15 years. 28 T shares I acquired thus far feels not nearly enough. Yeah, that's what ends up happening. You never feel like you have enough T shares, but we can definitely. I'm going to speak to someone who hasn't have any T shares, and then from there I will try to speak to people who already have T shares and how to kind of fix it. And I'll show. And one website I really use a lot, which is Hex. I mean, app hex.win charts and stuff like that. It's a really useful one to kind of check when do you want your hex stakes to come out. But thank you so much for the super chat. So now let me show you the power. So this is the kind of the cool thing. So like I've showed you sort of the history of what happens, right? So you're in a project, it pumps, you start selling, or you forget to sell and you're down bad and you're like, man, fuck this shit. So you end up having dudes that like win and hate it, win and love it, hate it and lose. And get wrecked and get wrecked and get wrecked, right? So you have like kind of like these 4 quadrants of people who end up winning and losing, losing and winning, and love it and hate it and hate it, right? And you end up washing out quite a lot of people because like maybe the guy who wins big and loves it stays, but you end up having sort of an 80% of the rest of the population of your tokens sort of just abandoning it basically. Because imagine for the people who were in it, were in profit in the beginning, didn't sell in time, it went down, and then from there they're just washed out. And this is very normal with across asset classes, but very much in crypto because we on altcoins we typically get about a 90% correction in altcoins. 85 to 95% correction in altcoins. So it is sort of an interesting sort of thing that a lot of people end up just being down so bad that they end up only sticking with the project until they can get their money out and then they leave. So and it really ends up just being a sort of a detriment to the system and stuff. And you end up having these people who don't really want to buy more back in, or they're ready to just sell at every pump's notice and stuff, which just slows down the price appreciation of a hex coin. That's why a lot of people do like virgin coins. But Hex has something really interesting. So typically that person that would just leave, if that person stakes, what ends up happening is he may stop caring about the project for a couple of years, but as the project continues on and like it starts powering on and does really well, he goes like, oh yeah, I have money in that system. Let me go check. Holy shit. Wow. I didn't know. Wow, this is worth way more than holy crap. And they stop giving and they start caring again because they have an incentive to like, dude, I have this nice bag here that keeps coming out. So what happens is Hex has this ability to keep bringing back its people, where a lot of other projects, over time, they lose the incentive of bringing back their people outside of the dudes who end a few percentage of the population of that coin who keep their coins and don't sell it forever.